good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So, again, on this channel, what we try to do is explore different ways of feeling better and basically releasing a lot of the habitual tension and anxiety that I would say almost all of us have. A lot of the tension and anxiety that we have, a lot of the stress that we have is, we like to say, unconscious. And by unconscious, for very practical purposes, it just means it's something we're not aware of. And it's imaginatively running the show a lot of the time. So when I hear the word unconscious, especially since I got into Emile Coué, Coué always said, unconscious just means your imagination. And that's how I link those two things together. The unconscious isn't this thing that is totally unknowable and that we can't make any sense of. We can link it, practically speaking, to our imagination, what we are imagining. And when we do that, and we start to look at what's there, what's imaginatively going on, why we tend to often feel bad and anxious and stressed out for no apparent reason, when we start to do that, things shift, and they can shift. We can figure out ways to feel better with relative ease. That's one thing that's surprising. Even though, in my opinion, this is continual inner work, the kind of stuff we're talking about, and it's the kind of work you're going to be doing on some level for the rest of your life. Actually feeling better, going from a state where you feel real stressed out to a state where you feel okay and might even feel very good, is very easy to do, surprisingly so. And again, that doesn't mean that that stress disappears and it's not going to come back. It is going to come back in some shape or form, almost always in some way. And you continually work with it. So you minimize your habitual level of stress and anxiety, so it's not there as often, right? That's, again, the inner work on a practical level here. But I was interested in this stuff before I got into, a lot of these manifesting ideas. And the manifesting ideas complemented this so well. When I'm talking about stress, when some of the folks, some of the teachers that we often talk about on this channel are talking about anxiety and stress, maybe we mean it in a little bit of a different way than the normal perception of it is. Because as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of these teachers are concerned, everybody has a lot more stress than they're willing to acknowledge. I meet a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not stressed out." I'm like, "You're fucking stressed out. Come on. If you're not stressed, genuinely not stressed, if you feel good and present, oof, it's real good. Real good." But, to continuously have that state is something, again, that we're all working on. And generally speaking, when you meet someone who is like really not stressed most of the time, you immediately know. There's such an aberration or an exception compared to the normal adult you meet in our culture. So this is, you could say, the ugly side of manifesting, of the law of attraction, of the law of assumption. This is the kind of stuff that people get into these ideas and they hear about Neville or Abraham Hicks or whoever, and like they want to manifest something externally, and maybe they do manifest some things externally in their life that improve their life. This is the kind of stuff that people then don't want to work with and acknowledge. This is the the shadow part of a lot of these ideas, because it's not as simple as manifesting something externally. You figured out this formula and everything, your life is just la-di-da perfect from then on. That just doesn't happen. Life happens to you, right? And becoming more aware, more conscious of these unconscious or imaginative thoughts that we have that tend to run us on autopilot is extremely valuable. If you've been into these ideas for a while, or if you want to get real about these ideas, I would suggest watching the last video that I did about autosuggestion and letting go. Because so much of that ties into this practice of this long-term inner work practice in terms of feeling better and manifesting better things in our life. Today I want to read more from Letting Go by David Hawkins. as I've said multiple times, and basically will continue to say, just to emphasize it, Chapter 2 of David Hawkins' book, Letting Go, is called The Mechanism of Letting Go. And so often that term seems vague or unclear. If you want a really good explanation of how to let go and what letting go is, at least according to Hawkins, check out Chapter 2 of the book, Letting Go. The chapter is called The Mechanism of Letting Go. It summates most of Hawkins' main points very well. He summates it just in a really great way in that chapter. I'm going to read more from Chapter 2 today. We've read from Chapter 2 before on this YouTube channel and in my podcast, but I don't think we've read this part. This ties in directly with the video the other day on autosuggestion and letting go. Hawkins writes in this chapter, this brilliant chapter, we carry around with us a huge reservoir of accumulated negative feelings, attitudes, and beliefs. The accumulated pressure makes us miserable and is the basis of many of our illnesses and problems. We are resigned to it and explain it away as the quote-unquote human condition. We seek to escape from it in myriad ways. The average human life is spent trying to avoid and run from the inner turmoil of fear and the threat of misery. Everyone's self-esteem is constantly threatened both from within and without. If we take a close look at human life, we see that it is essentially one long, elaborate struggle to escape our inner fears and expectations that have been projected upon the world. I'm going to read that again. Again, this is like the shadow side of Abraham Hicks or Neville. Not to say that those great teachers were misinterpreting it or giving you wrong information. They were not. But people get very excited, like when they hear Neville's advice or Abraham Hicks' advice or a lot of this mainstream law of attraction advice, and they don't recognize the underbelly that goes with that. That there's two sides to the coin. One side of the coin is manifesting, better things in your life. But the other side of the coin is how that actually happens long term is you have to acknowledge the stuff that's going on underneath, which is this. Again, Hawkins writes, if we take a close look at human life, we see that it is essentially one long, elaborate struggle to escape our inner fears and expectations that have been projected upon the world. That's really what this inner work is in terms of manifesting stuff in our life. Escaping the inner fears and expectations that we project onto our life. And if we stop projecting all of these fears, all of these limitations that are self-imposed, our external life will improve. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a visualization or like I'm trying to feel myself into a certain vibration state to do that. It can simply be to let go of all this pressure and anxiety. If you let it go and realize it's not true, that changes your external reality as well. That's what Hawkins is talking about very maturely in this chapter and in this book, Letting Go. He goes on to write here, interspersed are periods of celebration when we have momentarily escaped the inner fears, but the fears are still there waiting for us. We have become afraid of our inner feelings because they hold such a massive amount of negativity that we fear we would be overwhelmed by it if we were to take a deeper look. We have a fear of these feelings because we have no conscious mechanism by which to handle the feelings if we let them come up within ourselves. We don't know how to handle them. And again, that's what I was talking about last video. When these feelings come up, we feel powerless. And the stuff we're auto-suggesting to ourselves at that time is very negative, generally speaking. When you feel bad and you feel overwhelmed, just notice the thoughts that are coming up, that are naturally, that are coming up, that you're suggesting to yourself. They're negative. We can't handle it. Because we are afraid to face them, Hawkins writes, they continue to accumulate, and finally, we secretly begin looking forward to death to bring all of the pain to an end. It is not thoughts or facts that are painful, but the feelings that accompany them. Thoughts in and of themselves are painless, but not the feelings that underlie them. We don't want to face these feelings. Yeah. And so Hawkins goes on to write, it is the accumulated pressure of feelings that causes thoughts. One feeling, for instance, can create literally thousands of thoughts over a period of time. So again, this uncomfortable thought, it then creates all these thoughts or auto-suggestions that are kind of running on autopilot and basically destroying our life, destroying our sense of well-being and peace. That's what he's saying there. And these come from accumulated feelings, attitudes, and beliefs that we probably started to buy into and have when we were very young. Hawkins writes here, think, for instance, of one painful memory from early life, one terrible regret that has been hidden. Look at all the years and years of thoughts associated with that single event. If we could surrender the underlying painful feeling, all of those thoughts would disappear instantly and we would forget the event. That's a pretty dramatic claim. There is certainly some truth to it, though. Dealing with trauma and traumatic events, this is a lot of times how to do it, is to surrender the underlying feeling that has created this whole belief system that's running on autopilot, running like auto-suggesting negatively without us even being very aware of it, and we're just terrified of it. If we could surrender to it, it would become quiet down. And, I should mention here, the way Hawkins is talking about this is just one way of doing this, right? But it's becoming emotionally intimate and surrendering to the feelings. As I said, I was into this stuff. I just didn't know about serious, mature manifesting principles at the time. But when I did my Stop Being Serious series, that's another way to surrender to the feelings. You stop taking them seriously. You move around, right? And you see that it's not real. You see it's not real. It's another way to surrender, is by being very active. Look at, my Stop Being Serious series if you want more information on that approach to surrendering to the feelings, not taking them seriously anymore. Hawkins goes on to write here, this observation is in accord with scientific research. The Gray Violette scientific theory integrates psychology and neurophysiology. Their research demonstrated that feeling tones organize thoughts and memory. Gray Violette, 1981. Thoughts are filled in the memory bank according to the various shades of feelings associated with those thoughts. Therefore, when we relinquish or let go of a feeling, we are freeing ourselves from all of the associated thoughts. I don't know if that's true or not, but that study was done. Larger point being here, that these uncomfortable feelings that we don't want to face, that we can face by not being serious about them, or we can face by just feeling them openly and not trying to run away from them, they can be faced. And when we face them, we realize that all these thoughts are associated just from this feeling, this deeply held feeling we've had for years. And if we deal with the feeling differently, our life changes. We're released, liberated from taking that feeling so seriously and having it run our lives on autopilot. By autopilot, I mean auto-suggesting crap we don't want into our minds that then scares the shit out of us. Hawkins goes on to say, the great value of knowing how to surrender is that any and all feelings can be let go of at any time and at any place in an instant, and it can be done continuously and effortlessly. A lot of big language there, big claim by Hawkins, but you get the point. You learn how to do this, you look at your feelings differently. They still might scare you, but you can handle them in some way. Like, for instance, I know I can always stop being serious. If I do that for a couple minutes, feeling's going to change. How I feel about the feeling is going to change. And same with surrendering to the feeling, the way that Hawkins talks about it in the mechanism of letting go in this chapter. Hawkins says, what is the surrendered state? It means to be free of negative feelings in a given area so that creativity and spontaneity can manifest without opposition or the interference of inner conflicts. That's the direct link with manifesting external things. to be free of negative feelings in a given area so that creativity and spontaneity can manifest without opposition or the interference of inner conflicts. When you feel very clear about something and you want it and you desire it, and there's no inner turmoil or all these negative feelings about getting it, but you want it and you feel clear that you want it, there's a very good chance it's going to manifest in your life externally and manifest in your life in a very straightforward, simple, and probably rather rapid way. The problem is we've got all these self-imposed limitations and limiting beliefs that fuck us up all the time. When we let go of those, when we release those, when we see them for what they are and see they're not this serious thing that's meant to destroy our life, and that we can not treat them the same way and be much more lighter with them and, liberate ourselves from the clutches of them. When we do that, our life gets easier and inevitably we manifest better things in our life. This is the deep shit. This is not just, 1, 2, 3 manifest for me. This is doing the inner work. One more reminder. I should have said this at the beginning of the video, but whatever. If you're still listening, this is meant for you. We're going to have a free group session on this upcoming Tuesday, the 13th at 4 p.m. You can sign up for my newsletter below to get the link for that Zoom link, 4 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday, June 13th. If you want one-on-one coaching and counseling, I'm offering that as well. That's if you want to go deep on exactly the kind of thing that Hawkins was just talking about in this book, in this excerpt. I love working with people one-on-one who want to do this work because it is so beneficial and gratifying when we actually get down to it and do it. So let's do it. All right. Until next time, any questions, let me know. RadicalCounselor.com. Have a good one.